All right, well, I've got it at 6 bills. Russ?
Joe Becker, President. Peter Wissenbach. Here. Scott Gergen.
Here.
Lisa Dean.
Here.
Dave Pemble.
Here.
Russ Roloff. Here. Kelsey Waits.
Here.
Superintendent Collins.
Here. I would like a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I would like a motion to approve the minutes of the April 24th, 2019 regular board meeting, please.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I would like a motion to approve the bills payable, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on paying those bills? I'm for it.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 5, Superintendent's Report.
Well, now we might have some money to pay the bills. We don't know for sure, do we? Why don't you take a chance to introduce yourself to Hastings Cable Television?
Hello, everyone. I'm State Senator Carla Bigham, and thank you for allowing me to come to the meeting. I know this is third time's a charm. Session got in the way. First and foremost, I want to thank Superintendent Collins because he's communicates a lot with us and is very vocal in the support for public schools here in Hastings, and just really appreciate the great relationship that we have. He's been most generous to allow me to tour the schools with him and your wonderful staff, and so just want to say that. And I think I'll get to the budget in a second, but one of the I would say it was probably March or April, we passed the snow day forgiveness, giving you all some flexibility. I come from 2 different levels of local government, so I know that local control is a big deal, and so hopefully you found that helpful. And then we can talk about the budget a little bit. I'm very proud that we have a bipartisan agreement that was agreed to before the constitutional deadline of the session adjourning. You know, when we were dealing with the K-12 budget in the Senate, specifically in the Senate, they had 0.5% on the formula for each year. No money for special education cross-subsidy, and policies that would have kicked a lot of children that were in early education off. And thank goodness that we stood strong and fought to improve the final agreement, and I thank Governor Walz for that, who is a public school teacher, but also those of us champions in the Senate and in the House that really invest and feel strongly about public schools. The global agreement has 2 and 2 on the formula, has $90 million in cross-subsidy, and money to ensure that those that are in the early education, childhood education program can continue to stay on that. Something that former Governor Dayton had really wanted last year, and so that continues into this year, this budget. And then the tax bill has some equity in it for referendum levy equity. And now I'm going to caveat all of this with saying we haven't seen the language in the bill. So these are global agreements literally scratched out on paper like this and tweeted out. And so I don't know the fine details of that. I don't know if there are any changes in the formula. I don't know what parameters are around the special education funding or around the equity formula. So one big disappointment, I would say, is there's not really a lot of policy. Some policy that I think would have helped you guys in Hastings and throughout Minnesota in the bill. It's really skinny when it comes to policy. I had been advocating for radon testing, for that to be rolled into your 10-year maintenance and facilities plan, and that Senator Nelson wouldn't agree to it. I also had a hearing, and it was in the House side, came over in the conference committee from the House side was school threat assessment teams, and that was not adopted. So, I mean, we haven't seen the bill language yet, so I don't quite know, but if you read what has been kind of distributed and discussed, it's really skinny on the policy. So I can answer as many questions as I have the information to, but I just wanted to come and give you an update and see if you had any questions. But I think one thing we were able to do is it could have been a lot worse. And I think as far apart as people knew we were, to have this be 2 and 2 on the formula, 90 million for special education, protecting some of the early childhood, and levy equalization, I think, is a win.
I'll just make a few comments. I'm very pleasantly surprised. I would have not bet $50 when the session started that you would have.
We did not authorize sports betting, sir.
Okay, dang. So thank you for going up there and continuing the battle and get it
Yeah.
done. And that's what all of us in Hastings and Cottage Grove and everywhere, that's what we want.
Yes.
Just from board members, one thing I like about the senator is that she just tells it as it is. When you go up there, doesn't sugarcoat it, just says this is the way it is. And I also recognize that she has many other constituents that she has to represent, from roads to bridges to healthcare. And I get that too. And she's gonna push for education as much as she can. I really appreciate that you did get the timing done early enough so that we could know what we were doing with the school calendar and snow days and the flexibility. And again, when we went up and talked with you that day, it was clear that you want to give as much decision to this board
Yes.
as you can.
Absolutely. Very important.
And that reflected that. We want to give you as a board, and so thank you very much. And I'm happy with the 2 and 2. Of course, would always love more, and I think that you and everybody understands that the special ed cross subsidy is costing all schools quite a bit as well. But again, thank you for, and board members can ask questions, but thank you for taking time out of your busy life to come here. That's very much appreciated by us as a school board. But board members, any other questions or?
We got any idea when we're gonna have special session?
No, I would be surprised if we had it this week. I would say it probably will be next week. Man, just give the staff some time to sleep. I mean, they've been going, 2 weeks, back-to-back negotiations, and you have Memorial Weekend coming up, which is very important to, honor Memorial Day and those that gave all, for our country. And so I think that it's very important to do that. So I would think we'll do it next week. And I haven't seen anything on Health and Human Services. I haven't seen anything on the tax bill as far as language. And those are some bigger bills. And I don't believe the governor would call a special session unless all of that was done, completed, and signed off on. And so unless the 15 minutes to 20 minutes it takes for me to drive down here, something came through, then, I just don't see it coming. So I would say next week. We did get higher education done. So we have 9 chapters left of the budget to do.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And
Yeah, that's okay.
why don't we get together before next session as well to hear some priorities, and if you have any suggestions or concerns, let's get together and chat. So
Thank you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carla.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under
Oh,
the,
thank you.
under the superintendent report, I know that we'd gone through these 3 policies, and so this is the first reading. Our policy committee spent 2 times meeting on these 3 policies, and then at a work session, we did review them, so this is the first reading, and our second, at our next board meeting, we'll look to approve them. For those people in the audience, just to give or those people viewing, just to give a little example of policy 406, public and private personal data. that policy goes through what the school district needs to keep private, what can be personal, and what we have to give to the public. So it outlines those parameters. And one of the things that we removed from, and again, these policies, that's part of being MSBA member. MSBA drafts all these policies. And so one of the things that our committee, and we reviewed with you on the personal data, was, for example, parking lease data. So if we would have a parking lot where stall number 22 was for Tim Collins, stall number 23 was for Deanna, stall number 24, that's data that we don't have, so therefore we removed it from the policy. Another thing that we questioned in there was when you interview people, and tomorrow some of us are going to be on an interview team, and if you keep scores on that person or test scores, or if you do a ranking on them, so Steve Kovacs tomorrow would say, hey, everybody rank your the information. That's data that we couldn't remove. I said that we typically don't do that anyway, but our attorney said that that's something that we could not remove from the policy. So that gives you just a little bit of a feel for policy number 406. Policy 418 is the drug-free workplace school. And a couple of questions that we had in there was medical cannabis, because when that policy was written by MSBA, there wasn't as much medical cannabis. And actually MSBA is still working on that portion of it. There are places in there that talk in the policy about cannabis. We question why not vaping wasn't in there, because we all know that vaping is epidemic in our schools, and that's in a different policy. So we had questioned that. And then there were some other things in there that we wanted to make sure that all of our staff were signing off that they knew about the drug and drug policy, the drug testing, et cetera. And we did not have that. We did not have that as a practice. Next fall, through our Safe Schools system, which is an electronic system, everybody will have to go through that policy. They'll have to read it. They'll have to sign off that they read it, et cetera. They understand it. And so that's where technology, again, will help us. And then the last policy, the public data requests. We looked at that. One of the things that we zoned in on is that there was the word in there of retrieving data and the cost for retrieving data. That was only in one part of the policy, so we added it to 2 or 3, because sometimes the costs for us as a district to retrieve it off of a cloud somewhere is expensive. And I learned something on the difference between summary data and other data that the public can request. I did not know the difference, so I had to ask our attorney what is the difference. And for example, summary data is if Scott wanted to call up and find all the MCA scores of 5th grade for the last 5 years, that's summary data. So that was some of the things that we looked at in those 3 policies. We went through this at a work session, and there weren't a lot of questions there, so at our next board meeting, then we'll look to approve these 3 policies. I wanted to just give you an update. Last year, one of your goals for me and for our administrative team was a 3-year technology plan. And so this current year that we're now finishing is part of what that first year plan was. So I want to walk you through what we accomplished in that plan, if we did it all or not. So if you look up at the screen, we said that in 2018 we would have a new Exchange server. That is accomplished. We would upgrade our wireless network. That is accomplished. We would evaluate the single sign-in options. We're done with the evaluation of that, and we're down to 2 products now, and we're just deciding between those 2 products. One is a lot less expensive than the other, but there's a lot of work for our staff behind the scenes for our staff. So we're just kind of debating on that part of the cost. Focus on the firewall replacement, that is done. All the elementary teacher computers last summer and for this year is done. We've added the security cameras, that's taken care of. Additional access points, that's taken care of. We've moved off of our ties products, that's done. We've surveyed families through students on technology access. Right now, we're currently surveying some of our staff on the technology usage and satisfaction. I believe that went out last week. Staff accountability on Schoology, we're not quite there yet on that. And that's tying into the e-learning that's coming up, because we're mainly going to be using Schoology for grades 5 through 12. We're analyzing our computer labs, and really at our middle school, we're next year, because of the move, we're going to more Chromebooks, and I believe that we're going to stick then with less computer labs and more Chromebooks. And we did not implement a student-led tech support team at the high school this year, and part of that was due to this transitioning of some staff mid-year. So I'd say on the technology plan for 2018, 2019, we're at about 90% of the way there. So I just wanted to report back to you on how we did on that. And then two things that aren't on there, I just want to talk about Todd Field. It was interesting when I was at the awards banquet again. One of the people that was giving awards said to me, "Tim, wow, they're moving a lot of dirt at Todd Field, and I'm hearing a lot of people talking about that's a lot of money for just 5 games out of the year." And I said, what do you mean just 5 games? Well, that they're saying that just to play 5 football games there. And so again, because I'm on Hastings Community Television, the opportunity to talk about, we've always been playing more than 5 games there with our soccer, our lacrosse, our football, and then trying to get some of the JV levels there at times. But I shared with her that, we're going to have, in the spring of the year, softball will be practicing there, baseball will be practicing there, 4th grade soccer, 5th grade lacrosse, Little Raiders, and the list goes on. And she goes, "Well, you need to tell people that." So I said, okay, I thought we've done a good job, so I just wanted to mention that again on Hastings Community Television, that we have been using it more than just 5 home football games a year, but we do expect to use it a lot more. And then one other thing under the Superintendent's Report, I'm going to pass this around a little, that I'm going to read, because I didn't want to forget any part of it. And Ann, you can grab one back there as well. So bear with me, but I'm just going to read it because I didn't want to miss anything on it. So for the past year, I've shared with board members that I was going to reach the rule of 90 in April of this year. And for those of you who are watching, rule of 90, not everybody gets to access that. Ann, I'm sorry. I know that you don't. They threw it out after a while, but rule of 90 means that when a principal, a teacher, a superintendent, when their age combined with their years of experience reaches 90, they can start accessing their retirement plan. In the business world, it's your 401k typically. In our world, it's TRA, which is the teacher's retirement account, even though I'm a superintendent. So I can retire. I do plan on retiring and turning in my retirement letter in June to the board that I would retire on June 30th. I'm hoping that the board will consider hiring me back after that, which they can do, but they don't have to. And I'm 56 years old, and the bottom line is I believe that's too young to retire. My wife believes that it's way too young for me to retire, and I still enjoy what I do, and I still want to be a superintendent, and I'm hoping it's at Hastings, but that's up to this school board. My intention is to have more serious conversations with school board members near the end of June to see if all of you are still interested in my leadership. Over the years, I've had the opportunities to go to larger school districts. I chose to stay here in Hastings. It was the right fit for me on a professional level. In addition, the staff here, school board members over the years in the community have always treated me fairly. So why would I look to leave that? Again, I'm hopeful that the school board still desires to work with me collaboratively. For me financially, after talking to my financial advisor, he said that I should retire, and my monthly check that I'll be getting from my retirement will be less than if I retired at age 60, but it's all, as you know, how long do you plan on living? When do you want to get that money? When do you want to spend it? And I'd rather start taking less now because there are no guarantees in life. I feel it's important to share this information publicly now so that the school board members and the community know up front that those are my intentions. And then again, around June 30th, I'll start talking that week with the school board. And I'm hoping that they'll consider me, but we legally can't do anything to that point. So I wanted to read that tonight and get it out there in the public.
All right.
And that's it under the superintendent report.
All right, thanks, Tim. Just a little follow-up on that item. So, first of all, thank you for sharing that with us. I know that this has been on your radar for a bit, but thank you for sharing, your personal information with us tonight. From a board perspective, we certainly are willing to discuss a future employment agreement with Tim as our superintendent. The board will investigate and evaluate over the coming weeks through June which direction we're going to go. The board will not make a decision on this matter until July 1 or later as required by law. So,
Thank you.
all right, thanks, Tim. All right, we move into our action items. So number one, a motion to approve the 2019-2020 adopted budget. I need a motion and a second, and then I believe we're going to have a quick overview.
You wanna hear it first?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We could always say no and make you redo it.
That would be torture. Oops.
Yeah, can somebody?
And
Or yeah.
the board members should all have handouts, just in case it's not easy to read up on the screen. As far as the community goes, this adopted budget is out on our website, so out onto the district's website. It's under Departments and Services, Finance, and then Budgets. And then there's a folder for the 1920 budget. And then it's just there. By law or Minnesota state statute, we're required to have an approved budget prior to July 1 so that we can continue spending. So hopefully tonight we can get it approved. If I kind of go forward a few pages into the handout, I'll cover just some of the major changes from the last budget. So pupil units for 1920, our adjusted pupil units will be 4,771, and this will be 22 less than what we have in 1819. It's based on a projection, so we take our enrollment as of October 1 in the prior year and project that forward. On October 1 of 2019, once the students are in the buildings, I'll obviously redo that and make any necessary revisions in the revised budget. As far as the revenues go, our total revenue increase is about 1.2 million, and that's coming from aid and levy. It does have the 2% increase on the Gen Ed formula, so that's already accounted for. And then there's also the increase on the state special ed aid of about 113,000. On the revenues, on the expenditures, the payroll expenditures, so the teacher's contract for next year has all teachers moving one step and then 1% added to the salary schedule. We're still in negotiations with the teachers. The other thing that it accounts for is in the 5-year projection, we had originally included 4 retirements, and we did have additional retirements, so the budget has been adjusted to 6 retirements. The total teacher FTE is 290.3551. Principals, admins, and supervisors are all in at an estimate for 1819, for 1920, as that contract has not yet been settled. and other contracts are per negotiations. So the total payroll expenditure change was $662,000. The other expenditures that changed in this budget, the transportation contract was settled, and that had a 3.25% increase, which totals out to about $118,000. The district-wide budget that has a lot of our annual renewals on contracts, along with the election budget, there's an increase there of $38,000. Operations and maintenance, which covers our utilities, has about a $32,000 increase. And then for 1920, the high school class fees were discontinued for IT, art, hort, and science, and that came to about $21,900. That was a board-approved item. Our workers' compensation increased 10%, so that's about $14,000. And then our social worker, one of our social workers had to be removed from the Safe Schools levy, so that actually becomes a general fund increase of about $13,000 in expenditures. All other miscellaneous programs was about $36,000. So the total change to the expenditure budget was $937,000, which nets in revenues greater than expenditures of $295,000. So our fund balance, our actual ending fund balance at 17-18 was $12,451,000. Our projected 18-19 fund balance is $12,587,000. And then with this data, the projected ending fund balance for 19-20 will be $13,019,000. So there's still a lot of things that need to be accounted for. This adopted budget is done with the information we have available at this time, but the revised budget, I'll probably start right away tomorrow. So there'll be changes coming, but if we make any staffing due to student numbers, any staffing changes, that will be in the revised budget. Teacher, principal, administrator, supervisor contracts will be updated to final negotiations. The actual hire versus estimated salaries. So right now we don't know who or where teachers will be placed on the salary schedule that are being hired for next year. So I have estimates in for that, but by the time I do the revised budget, we'll have actuals, so all of that will be updated. The property and liability insurance I just got yesterday, but that actually had a 17% increase, so that will be included. Any other legislative changes to the revenues and expenditure calculations will be included, and then any adjustments based on the audit for 1920 will all be in there. So the revised budget will come in October, and then after that, there'll be a 5-year projection that will come in about December. If we go into this next page, which I know we've talked about, Kim has talked about in different scenarios, but the top part is the restricted. So these are revenues and expenditures that are received for a specific purpose. They're not necessarily things that we can control. But if we go down to the yellow line at the bottom, the unassigned, those are the expenditures that the district really has control over. That's where it's showing that the $13 million will be our ending fund balance. In that unassigned, that's going to be like all of our operating expenses, our staffing, all of our main expenses are in there. The one adjustment we have to make is the health and safety used to be restricted account, and it no longer will be. So you can see at the bottom I have an adjustment kind of there for that, so we'll see that on the revised. And again, this does have the additional 2 retirements accounted for, so it is a little bit different than what that 5-year projection looked like. If we go into the next page, that's the general fund. If we go into the next page, we have the food service fund. And each year, MDE sends out a paid equity tool that we're supposed to use to help figure out our pricing for school lunches. And we're taking a waiver on that again for 1920 because we have a sufficient fund balance in food service. So you'll see later on in the agenda that the lunch prices are set to stay the same for 1920. And that's really, again, just because we have an adequate fund balance, and you know, right now, everything in this budget is estimates, but our participation has been increasing. The estimates that I used for the reimbursements that we get, you know, again, they're estimates, so they might change. So right now, we're overspending just slightly in that food service fund, but we'll see where everything comes back in. And then if we look at the community service fund, the only thing really to mention on that one is that we did receive an adjustment from MDE based on the ABE recalc of hours for 17-18. So you'll see I have that adjustment down there. And when we do the revised, that'll be accounted for, but that was about $46,000 that we had to return. And then from there, you know, the next pages are just kind of showing like our revenues and expenditures by source and object. I won't go through all of that, but there definitely is more information available in the packet if somebody's interested. So
Any questions from the board members? I know that when we get to an action item, I'll ask you questions about workman's comp and you had noted that both had increases, and I'll just have you explain a little bit why and when we get to there. So if there are any questions, thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I'd like a motion to approve the 2019-2020 adopted budget, please.
So moved.
And can you kick the light back? Thank you.
Any discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign? Motion passes. I would like a motion to approve the sales agreement with Fieldturf USA Incorporated in the amount of $434,130.39 for the turf project at Todd Field.
I'll motion. Second.
Thank you. And some discussion on this item, please.
Jen, just correct me if I'm wrong on this item, even though we bid out Todd Field, because we're making the purchase of the turf, and because it's over a certain dollar amount, we have to bring it forward, even though it's part of the project, so that's why we had to put it on the agenda item.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 3, a motion to approve the following insurance rates for 2019-2020. And here we have listing out our property and liability, our workers' compensation, and our agency fees for a net increase of 10.10%, or $189,991 in total. So,
That's just on the workers' comp.
That's just
It looks
workers'
to me like there's
oh, I'm
two.
sorry, that's just
property and
that's,
liability.
yes, that's workers' comp on the one with the agency fee, thank you. And then the property and liability went up 17.84%, and the rate went up $157,960.
That's the total rate.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
After this motion, I'll have Jen and I will just have a little discussion to explain it.
I'll motion.
Second.
All right, discussion.
So Jen, workers' comp, correct me again if I'm wrong, but workers' comp works kind of like health insurance. It's about over a 3-year period where they look at how many claims that we've had of claims. And so it's almost like self-funded health insurance. If you have more claims, then your costs are going to go up.
We had a good year drop off, and we picked up a year that we had higher claims.
Yeah, so there's an ebb and flow to it. Why don't you explain MIST and what is MIST to the board?
Yep, so MIST is an insurance pool that we're part of for our property and liability. Several school districts are a part of it or belong to it. And actually, over the last several years, we haven't had increases on that insurance. But now this year, we do have one, and it really is in the property part of the insurance, so there's a lot of different kind of components of the insurance. But they're kind of looking at it as a market correction due to the rate increases we haven't been getting in the last couple of years. And that when we compare what we used to be paying before we went into MIST, so like in 13-14 before we went into MIST, our rates right now are still less than what we were paying back then. So although it is an increase,
So the $157,960 is our total premium.
correct.
So baked into that is a 17.84% net increase. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Motion and second?
Any further discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Motion passes. Item 4, a motion to approve the school breakfast, lunch, and milk prices for the 2019-2020 school year. I would like a motion and a second, please. Thank you. And discussion on this item. I know that Jen alluded to it in her presentation already.
Good news whenever a board can say, hey, we're not going to raise lunch prices, and there was, I want to say, about a 7-year stretch where we had to raise it. And the reason was, is the government was saying, hey, if we're giving you a federal reimbursement rate of this much per lunch for your free and reduced, you've got to get your lunches at least up to that level. And there is a law stipulation that if you have so much in your reserve, which we do, then you don't have to raise it. And so we've decided we've got that reserve in our food service, so we're not going to raise it. So that should be good news for our families.
Excellent. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Motion passes. Item 5, a motion to approve a resolution approving intermediate school district number 917, their long-term facility maintenance program budget, and authorizing the inclusion of a proportionate share of those projects in the district's application for long-term facility maintenance revenue. The full resolution and Appendix A and B are attached to this agenda. I would like a motion and a second, please, and then we can have some discussion.
I'll motion.
Second.
And waive the reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, Russ wouldn't be able to go back to a 917 meeting if he didn't pass this, but just like we have to put together a long-term facility maintenance plan, 10 years, so does 917. We're a member there, so just as they're trying to upgrade some of their facilities and reinvest, they expect that we pay our portion of it. All of you were able to have the tour at our last work session of an outstanding facility, and as they try to redo the roast windows there, they say, hey, Hastings, you need to pay your portion. And so that's what that says, that we will do that.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? I'm sorry, this is a roll call vote. Russ, please.
Joe Becker? Yes. Peter Bissenblack? Here. Scott Bergen?
Yes.
Lisa Hedden? Yes. Dave Humble?
Yes.
Russ Roloff? Yes. Kelsey Waits? Sorry.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6, a motion to approve a resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of probationary teachers. We have 2 that are listed in there, and again, for those folks that may be viewing this or listening to this information, typically we are not in the, we typically do not read the names off here, but they are available in the agenda online. So this will be a roll call vote, but first I need a motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
Thank you. And discussion on this one, please.
Yeah, I think, again, we went through this pretty in-depth at our last meeting. Anybody that's 3 years or less, you non-renew. These were just 2 names that didn't get to the list at that time. And I shared at the last meeting that sometimes it can be due to we don't have enough students in Phi-Ed, so we reduce and shrink. Other times it might be that we're transitioning places, people, or they're bumping. So anyway, there's many reasons why a teacher might get non-renewed, and these were 2 that needed to be on the list. Both of these teachers were told 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, along with the other group of teachers. So they've known about this for as long as the other teachers.
Joel Becker,
Yes.
Peter Bussenbach.
Yes.
Scott Bergen.
Yes.
Lisa Dean.
Yes.
Dave Pemble.
Yes.
Russ Roloff, yes. Kelsey Waits.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 7, a motion to approve the employment of the following individuals. There are 19 individuals on this list. Again, this is available online via our website for the school board, and so I need a motion and a second for this, please.
So move. Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to share that you'll see a variety of salaries listed there. And as a superintendent, I've never gone to our administrators when they're interviewing and said to them, you know what, to control our budget, hire somebody with 3 years or less of experience, because then that'll help our budget for the next 5 to 6 years. I definitely want the best hired. And through the interview process, sometimes principals will say, you know, I need a really experienced teacher in 4th grade, so I need to hire somebody with 8 to 10 years. That's what I need. And I say, okay, that's fine. I'm not in on the interview process. We want buildings with outstanding teachers, and so I just wanted to share that when we look at the variety of salaries, I never get involved in that. Principals have actually asked me that at the table before they get into interviews. Tim, you know, I see that we might be $500,000 over budget next year. Does that impact on how you hire? And I say, no, because I want your daughter or son to have the best when we interview. I want your son to have the best. And they're the ones that determine that. So anyway, I just wanted, and that's not only teachers, it's other positions as well as we bring them in. So I just wanted to make that comment before you finally approve it.
Well, and I think my understanding too is some of the positions that we're hiring require a higher level of education. Even if it may be a teacher with less experience or a staff person with less experience, a master's degree is just is the entry level
Yeah.
educational requirement.
Especially in the special education, speech
Yeah.
pathology departments, yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, we obviously want qualified people
Yeah.
and experienced people.
Any other discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 8, motion to approve the resignation of the following 4 people. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So move.
Thank you. Any discussion on these? Besides a thank you for their
Yep.
service? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Item number 9, a motion to approve the following retirements. So we have 1 individual on this list. A motion and a second, please. Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion?
Just a thank you again.
Mhm.
Absolutely, 15 years. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Enjoy your retirement. Item number 10, a motion to approve the leaves for 2 individuals. I need a motion and a second, please.
So move. Second.
Somebody got them in there, so
Yep.
thank you. Any discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.